Anderson Cooper 360, weeknights at 8 and 10 on CNN.
Dozens of photographs obtained by 360 show what he was allegedly trying to hide from the outside world. Randy Kay joins me now from Cleveland.
Anderson, these photos were taken over the weekend by a neighbor who asked not to be identified. Now, in all, more than 70 photos are there. We've had a look at all of them, but let me show you some of the most interesting ones that we think there are. First of all, take a look at this wide shot. This is a wide shot of the backyard at Ariel Castro's home. It's a mess. You can see it really looks like a junkyard. You can see there's a car off to the right that maybe a child would ride in. Also to the left, you can see a kid's basketball net there, and that's the garage, of course, in the distance. But quite a mess. This next photo is really telling. There were spools and spools of barbed wire all over the yard, thick rolls of it like you see in these photos. We know, of course, the three women were held for years against their will, so this may have been used to keep his captives inside in case they made a run for it, perhaps, and very likely to keep anyone on the outside from trying to get in. That stuff, as you know, can do some real damage to someone. Also, we want to show you this next picture of a chain. Now, it's around a tree. You can see it there. And Castro, of course, did have puppies. But our guy who took these photos says that hundreds of chains, not just a couple of little yard chains were found, but hundreds of very thick, heavy chains were there in the yard. And remember, the police report said that he had kept the girls chained up in the basement originally, then chained up elsewhere in the home. Also, you can see in this one photo, there's a pulley there in the grass. So he did have some type of pulley system, Anderson, but it's unclear as to why.
And we know there was a 6-year-old girl living there, Amanda Berry's child, which we know is also Ariel Castro's child. Any evidence of that little girl in the backyard?
It seems so, at least. If you look, we found some bicycles in the backyard in the photos. There are a couple of red bikes that are leaning against the house. Clearly, these are bicycles that children would use. Castro did have grandkids, so these bikes may belong to them. But we want you to look at this other bike that certainly caught our attention. It's a Barbie bike. It's pink. And as you can see there, it's clearly made for a little girl. We know, of course, as you said, the daughter Amanda Berry had with Ariel Castro lived in that house. So maybe it was for her to use. We don't know for sure, but certainly this is a picture of innocence there in the backyard behind what many are calling a house of horror. So it's incredibly creepy to see it there. And also, one other thing, speaking of creepy, look at this photo. There is a mirror hanging up at Castro's back door, which is now boarded up. Police have boarded that up. But this is critical because it also it allowed him to stand at his back door and see whoever was coming up his driveway, even though the driveway was completely out of view for him. Possibly this was used to prevent any surprise visitors. In fact, one neighbor told the guy who actually took this photo that when he would go visit Castro at his home, before he could even get halfway up the driveway, Castro would pop out his front door as if he was expecting him or knew he was coming, and clearly now we know why. Also, we want to show you the back of the house. This photo shows how far Ariel Castro went to shield himself and his victims from others. You can take a look at the gray wood that's in the windows. The guy who took these photos says that Castro removed his windows, and actually we saw them scattered in the yard in some other photos. He then replaced them with this wood paneling all over the house. This is from the backyard, as I said. Nobody then could see what or who was in that house. And finally, another way to shield himself, take a look at this last photo. That's the garage, but to the left you can see this blue tarp. Apparently Ariel Castro had tarped over the whole backyard. He used blue tarp and green tarp and some gray tarp, according to our photographer. But tons of piping was also found in the yard and some other rolls of tarp on the ground. Certainly it wasn't in short supply. Maybe he was planning to do more tarp work, but he certainly wanted to make sure nobody could see what was going on in the yard or anywhere else around that house, Anderson.
Did the guy who took these photos say why he took them?
Well, he said he wants people to know what's there and what happened there. He said it's horrible. I mean, he's a neighbor in this community. He can't believe that this all happened in his neighborhood. And he can't believe that nobody knew about it. And he certainly doesn't want it to happen again.